Selamat malam, Sobat Katolikana. Berjumpa lagi di program Berbagi Harapan. Hello everybody, welcome to my special talk show of Sharing Hope, Berbagi Harapan. This is special because in English, and the topic is Media, Catholicism, and Islam in Asia, Development and Prospect. We have three guests or three speakers. I will introduce you. First is Dr. Michelle Chambon.
Good evening.
Good evening. Dr. Michelle Chambon is a research fellow at the National University of Singapore. The second one, Dr. Deden Mauli Darajat.
Good evening.
Good evening, Dr. Deden is a lecturer at the Islamic State University, Syarif Hidayatullah, in Jakarta. And the third one, Father Anthony Leduc, SVD, PhD.
Good evening.
Father Anthony is a director of Asian Research Center for Religion and Social Communication at St. John University in Thailand. So thank you to all of the speakers. I will start with this talk show and I will meet Dr. Mitchell or Michelle. Hi, Michelle.
Hi, Lucas.
Yeah, could you tell us about the, let's say, Catholic news agency that you have already done some research on that?
Yes, so the
Please.
topic, yes, sure. So the topic of media and religion in Asia, it's a very broad topic. So
Yes.
I'm happy to focus on one key element in this
Mm-hmm.
complex landscape of media and religion in Asia, and it's Catholic news agencies which are focusing on Asia. So there are not that many Catholic news agencies specialized
Mm-hmm.
on religious information from Asia. And there are very specific kind of media outlet that are at the center of all kind of flows of informations and interest. That's why I think it's an interesting case study when we try to explore this complex landscape that is always changing of religious media or the interaction between media and religion in Asia. So basically, Catholic news agencies focusing on Asia are three. There are three of them. One more now, or a little more, but let's start with the three basic ones. They all emerge around the 1980s, and I would provide a quick introduction to the three of them and their history over the past 40 years. This way that will introduce us to the topic tonight of media
Mm-hmm.
and religion. So the first one is named Asia News. So if you go on Google, you will find Asia News, not the famous big media outlet, but the other one. There are two Asia News. So the first one, I think the oldest one. So it was a Catholic news agencies founded by a missionary congregation, religious order, the PIME, Pontifical Institute of Missionary of Milan in Italy. So it was initially a missionary congregation from Italy. The congregation was created in 1850s, and it's only in 1986 that they created these news agencies. So initially, it was a news agency publishing monthly paper magazine of 32 pages. So like small magazines, books. And that's how they operated for about 15 years through papers, giving in-depth analysis of specific events happening in Asia related to religion, not just Catholics. The idea was to provide a deeper understanding on cultural and religious dynamics of Asia and go beyond all kind of secular bias in mainstream information. So those Italian missionaries were not happy about the kind of news and information arriving from Asia to Europe that was highly what they call secular, meaning focusing on economics, conflicts, these kind of things, without in-depth attention to other deep cultural and religious roots that explain how the ways in which Asian groups and societies shape themselves and organize themselves. So they created this news agency as a way to push back against a very secular tendency in Western society and secular ways of approaching Asia.
Mhm.
Um, so and it was a way for them also to contribute to the understanding of the Vatican
Mhm.
and the papacy of what's going on in Asia and provide public information in Italian, so it was only in Italian, to church leaders, Catholic leaders. So to create a bridge between Asian societies and religion in Asia and the leadership of the Catholic Church. So that was for 15 years. That's what they did. And in 2003, they decided to go online because internet was growing
Mhm.
very significantly. And so they opened up in 2003 a trilingual portal. So they moved out of just Italian. And in 2003, they started to publish everything in English, Italian, and Chinese. So that tells us already a lot of their effort to adjust with new technologies and globalization. So Italian was
Mhm.
not enough anymore, even inside the Catholic Church, and they still had some kind of missionary interest toward China. So they picked those three languages. Also, they felt the need to speed up, like having a monthly publication with in-depth analysis was very like prestigious and nice in the 80s, but felt a little outdated and slow in the early 2000s. So through the online portal, the kind of news and the way they report news evolved fairly quickly. In 2013, 10 years later, they added an additional language to their portal, Spanish, as a way, they claim, to build a stronger bridge between Latin America, especially, and Asia. In 2020, so 3 years ago, when I did my survey, they claimed that they had
Mhm.
20,000 connections per day, so that's a lot. And with 30 local correspondents and reporters across Asia, and relying more and more on professional journalists and less on religious priests, nuns connections across the country. So that also tells you how the content of their information is more and more informed by more, how to say, lay, secular um,
Mhm.
approaches. Anyway, so that's the first case study. Now I would like to move quickly to the second case study, to the second news agency focusing on Asia, and that's in many ways it's similar. It was created in the late 1980s by the French missionaries. So I
Mhm.
will use the acronym. The name of these news agencies is EDA. In French, it's Church in Asia. EDA. And when the French missionaries, the MEP fathers, the Foreign Mission of Paris, created this, it was a way for them to bring a bridge between the church, the global church, and French elites, French journalists, and to provide also the same idea, in-depth analysis and report on what's going on in
Mhm.
Asia. And the religious angle was a way to kind of challenge very business-oriented, superficial news report coming out of Asia through secular media. And also for those French missionaries, generating their own news agencies, harvesting information from all over Asia and putting it in French was a way to make their own voice of those French missionaries heard in Rome, because French was still an important diplomatic language and also an academic language. So many church leaders and also Asian clergy members studying in Europe would be able to speak French. So by creating these news agencies that allowed those missionary organizations that were losing members and losing strengths, but which still has a lot of money to contribute and make their voice heard in
Mm-hmm.
the transformation of the Catholic Church in the late 80s and 90s. Same, initially their publication were all on paper. It's only also in the early 2000s that they shift to online format, and those French decided to keep everything in French only. In 2016, however, the leadership of this missionary congregation decided that their own news agencies in French was not a priority anymore, so they decided to kind
Mm-hmm.
of downside it. And however, they supported, I will mention the third news agencies, UCAN, as a way to contribute and to continue to support the production of information coming out of Asia for the global audience. So today, their news agency is still a news agency producing information about religion in Asia, but it's more and more what I will call a pastoral communication from coming out of those French missionary, and less religious information per se. It's more communication, trying to spread a message of a religious organization than a systematic effort to provide information. Let me move on quickly to my third case, you can use. So this is the
Yeah.
largest private Catholic news agencies in Asia today. It was created in 79 by an American missionary with a strong mission of decolonizing Catholic
Mm.
communication. His goal was not to create a news agency owned by his own missionary society, the American Maryknoll. His goal was to create a platform, a collective union of news outlet coming from Asia. This is why UCAN, the name itself is a union of Catholic agencies, UCAN. So quickly in the 80s, 90s, they opened up offices all across Asia. They have more than 60 employees in the early 2000s. They shift, same pattern, they shift online. In 2009, it was a Jesuit who took the leadership of it, but the institution itself was still a highly, how to say, mixed of institution. Behind, you have the French missionary giving millions of euros to support it. You have the American missionaries. You
Mm-hmm.
have the German Missio and Misero institutions, and even the Vatican. So you had a collection of Catholic entities supporting these broad news agencies that is still operating today and evolving. Today, in 2019, it moved on lay people leadership. It's not a priest anymore who is a director of the agency. There is a board of directors where those different missionary congregations still have a voice, but UCAN is moving toward a model of being how to say, self-supported and not just relying on charitable donation from religious organization. It went through different crises, so I don't want to to spend too much time, but there was an additional news agency that came out of UCAN, and it's based in Bangkok, Likas, that is trying another way to contribute to the production of news analysis on Catholic Asian Catholics. And today
Yes.
you can remain
Okay.
only in English. So that's it. I stop here, and we can discuss the significance of those three news agencies to understand the interplay between media and religion in Asia.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Yes. Thank you, Michelle. This is an interesting topic, and more deeply on the Catholic news agency. In Indonesia, the UKAN is more popular
Mhm.
compared to the others of the Catholic news agency. I will send you another question later, Michelle.
Mhm.
Then I can go to Dr. Dedet. Good evening, Dr. Dedet.
Good evening, Mr. Lucas.
Yeah, I would like to ask you about the landscape of media and Muslim media evolved in the past 50 years in Indonesia? Maybe you can take also the focus. Dr. Deden, please.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Lucas. The development of media cannot be separated from the press system in Indonesia. And
Mm-hmm.
the press system in Indonesia depend on the political system in Indonesia. For example, in the old order era, there were several political systems such as a full democracy and
Mm.
also there are guided democracy. When we had full democracy, our press system was very free. Almost all parties, political parties and organizations had their own mass media. However, during the New Order and its democracy was, we said that Pancasila, democracy Pancasila, even though this was just the mess to say that our democracy had entered to authoritarian stage where some mainstream media were banned by the government such as Tempo magazine and Detik
Mm-hmm.
magazine. The Islamic media also following the press system in Indonesia also. Islamic organization such as Nahdlatul Ulama, the biggest one, and also Muhammadiyah have their
Mm-hmm.
own media. There are also Islamic media present such Panjimas, Ulumul Quran, and etc. Uh, and in the end of 1990, Republican newspaper is present by ICMI, Ikatan Cendekiawan
Mm.
Muslim Indonesia, Indonesian Muslim Intellectual Association. This is pioneered by Professor Dr. Habibi when the time is the Minister of Research and Technology. This the time that Republika newspaper come to Indonesia and uh, now just online because the paper is in the end of 2022. Like
and
it.
and and you are one of the journalists, Mr. Deden, right?
Uh, I'm also in 2008 to 2010. Yeah,
Mm-hmm. The
during
journalist
that.
of Republika, right?
Yeah, yes, Republika.
Okay, good. Yeah, please proceed.
Of course, Islamic leader in Indonesia are people who are influential and have position in Islamic organizations, such as the chief of Nahdlatul Ulama, Muhammadiyah, ISMI, also student organization like HMI, Himpunan Mahasiswa Islam,
Mm-hmm.
EMM, that was engaged with the media because the issue and what the news come to us, they are give the opinion in mass media. How do Muslim actor engage? In that time, 50 years ago, like Gus Dur, I think Abdurrahman Wahid, Kiai Haji Abdurrahman Wahid, so Cak Nur, Nurholis Majid, M.
Mm-hmm.
Haidul Najib, that give the most idea of Islam and state in the media mainstream in Indonesia. So, following by Azumardi Azra, Syafi'i Ma'arif, Komarudin Hidayat,
Mm.
Din Samsudin, Hasim Muzadi, that were instrumental in mainstreaming Islamic and Indonesian ideas in the mass media. So we can separate it about the Islamic scholar and the media mainstream.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, okay. Who are the main actor in the Muslim media? I think we say that also one again MUI, Majelis Ulama Indonesia, that also what the one actor who uh, what give the fatwa, or what we say in English, fatwa, some suggestion for ummah
Mm-hmm.
in Indonesia, like that. What the main objective and challenges of Muslim media? The main purpose of Muslim media is to preach, which is to invite godness and forbid evil. Of course, this is the main of purpose. But also, in addition, to goal is bring peace, especially in Indonesia and also in the world. The challenge is that with the advent of the internet, now today is the news come like tsunami, very much from we uh, from morning until the night. We much of the news also that we don't know where is the good news, where is the bad news, is very difficult to see. Okay,
Okay.
also, how do Muslim and secular media relate, compete with each other? I think Muslim and secular media remain in contact and synergy in building the Ummah and the nation in Indonesia. In terms of market, I think both religious and secular media have their own market share. Their mind
Mm-hmm.
readers also always therein. Even YouTube channel now also always have a follower, subscriber like that. That is the fact. Digital world today. I think.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Also,
Okay.
I give in Islam also the actor suggest that don't share the hoax, etc., etc.
Okay. Okay, Dr. Deden. Yeah, I will also send you another question. Yeah, for example, the actor. Yeah, what about women actors? But later, yeah, you
Okay,
can
okay.
you can answer it later. I can go to Father Anthony. Okay, good evening, Father Anthony. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Hello, Father.
Hello, good evening.
Yeah. Good evening, Father. Yes, we just talked with Michelle and then and now with you, Father Anthony, especially to answer the question, how is the word of religious leaders and media intersect? Father Anthony, please.
Well, okay. Well, first of all, thank you for inviting me to participate in this conversation this evening. It's very meaningful at this time. So, I will give some broad strokes about what's happening in Asia for the last 50 years in terms of media development and also focus on the interaction between religious leaders and digital media at this time. So
Mm-hmm.
we know that over the past 5 decades, Asia's media landscape actually has transformed significantly. In the early 1970s, state-owned broadcasters and newspapers basically dominated the region. However, subsequent decades, we saw there were shifts as media laws were liberalized, giving rise to more commercial media outlets.
Mm.
And this liberalization led to the proliferation of media platforms, including television stations, radio stations, and newspapers. And as we know, the advent of the internet really revolutionized information dissemination, granting individuals access to create and share content. And this digital revolution gave birth to social media and online news platforms. And this reshaped the media landscape. The online sphere really facilitated global information flow and then expanding the horizons of media consumption and also production. And so now individuals are no longer just producers or consumers of information, but individuals become both producer and consumer. And that's why we have now the term prosumer, as
Consumer.
both producer and consumer at the same time when they have a social media account, for example. So, and simultaneously, we see that religious media in Asia also experienced transformation. Historically, it was confined to print publications and radio broadcasts. However, religious media has expanded its reach and embraced new technologies. For instance, of course, in addition to the examples that Dr. Michelle gave, we can also speak about Radio Veritas Asia, which is a Catholic shortwave radio station that was founded in 1970. And this station played a crucial role in promoting the Catholic faith in regions where religious media was restricted. For example, Vietnam, China, Myanmar, and Cambodia. So RVA represented the Catholic Church's aim to spread Christ's teachings through the radio airwaves. And in 1981, Pope John Paul II called RVA the voice of Asian Christianity. And so radio broadcasts like RVA really benefited countries facing religious persecutions. This was testified by the bishops of Vietnam in 1990 in a meeting. Now, today, religious groups have diversified, of course, their media presence with television channels, radio stations, as well as online platforms. I can say your platform is a multi-media platform, right? You're both on the radio and TV, but also online. However, the challenges have really emerged, including the spread of misinformation and the ease with which social media platforms can radicalize individuals. And we observe that with the situation of the extreme Buddhist nationalists in Myanmar, who targeted the Rohingya Muslim population, leading to its genocide and causing millions to have to leave the country. As for religious leaders, they intersect with the media in various ways, and you can see that religious leaders leverage media platforms to communicate their messages to a broader audience and engage in public discourse, as well as addressing current events and social issues. For instance, Pope Francis uses his media presence to discuss topics like poverty, migration, and climate change, which underlines the Catholic Church's commitment to social justice. We also see Muslim religious leaders using the media to promote environmental awareness, to condemn violence, and to advocate for peace. Religious actors, and this includes organizations, leaders, and lay people, individuals, actively engage with the media in various capacities. They produce their own media content, and this includes television programs to online content, and in order to disseminate religious teachings and practices and to connect with the wider audience. And some religious leaders across traditions have been very active on social media for years, and they aim to promote these humanistic and spiritual values that resonate with the audience across cultures and across countries. And the name of the Dalai Lama comes to mind, and his tweets usually reflect this kind of outlook. I would like to mention about the COVID-19 pandemic as an example of creative and essential use of digital media by religious leaders. This was a time that highlighted the crucial role of religious leaders in addressing the crisis through effective communication. And many religious leaders were recognized by the WHO as well as the UN Secretary Antonio Guterres as sources of support and healthcare guidance that was essential to overcome the pandemic. So during the pandemic, religious leaders used digital media to do multiple things, including, for example, communicating their personal presence. As religious leaders, maintaining a personal presence with the faithful is a top priority for them, right? So then they have to demonstrate care and involvement and presence in community matters. But because the situation of the pandemic did not allow for this physical presence, so religious leaders use digital media as a practical way to maintain this presence and to reassure their communities. And this presence, of course, offered comfort, motivation, and also a sense of connection to the people. Another way that they creatively used digital media is to communicate sound theology and spiritual wisdom. Normally, religious leaders have the task of providing authoritative theological and spiritual guidance to their adherents. But during the pandemic, this role became more urgent because people had many questions, many of them spiritual, about what was happening in the world. And so the religious leaders needed to help people make sense of what they were experiencing from a sound theological perspective. And in addition, they also shared messages of faith, hope, and encouragement for the faithful. Another creative way is to communicate divine presence through religious rituals. For people of faith, religious rituals hold significance, but the pandemic led to closures of worship places and restrictions on gatherings. So what religious institutions had to do was to adapt by performing rituals online. And by doing that, they allowed for the faithful to participate from their homes. And so this digital shift also reached those who might not regularly attend in person as well. And another way that I want to mention here is many religious leaders use digital media to communicate useful and correct information to the public. And we know that in addition to their spiritual authority, religious leaders have influence beyond faith in other areas like social and economic development, peace initiatives, and environmental conservation. And so during the pandemic, many religious leaders leveraged digital media in order to convey accurate information, to combat misinformation and disinformation, and to emphasize the importance of combining faith with responsible actions based on sound scientific understanding. And I just want to quote Mufti Ismail Mag in an August 2020 YouTube post. He kind of stated very plainly, and I quote him, no one passes away except by the decree of Allah, that we know. At the same time, we're taught to be very, very careful. We're taught to take precautions. We're taught to be responsible, and we should take it seriously. Taking it seriously does not negate your faith in Allah. You take precautions, then you rely on Allah. You can't just say, I rely on Allah, and then do as you please. That's ignorant. So, as you can see, as a Muslim leader, he really used his YouTube channel, which has millions of followers, in order to spread this message. The final thing I will say here in my remarks is about responsible stewardship. I believe that the positive and creative ways that religious leaders and groups use media during the pandemic to help their followers with real-world issues, of course, should continue in the present and future. And this is needed for the multiple concerns of our time, including climate change, social inequality, migration, the issues concerning modernization and secularization. The key, as I have already mentioned, is creative and responsible stewardship. Uh, in this evolving realm of communication technology, responsible stewardship is essential. Every new technology ushers in fresh responsibilities. Um, it forces us to grapple with ethical, legal, and as well as social implications. The smartphone that we have in our hands empowers
Mm,
us with access to vast information, communication tools, and resources that have transformed our way of life and our connections. Um, but the digital age provides an unprecedented platform as well for religious actors to reach, inspire, and guide countless individuals on their spiritual journeys. And with this newfound influence comes a divine responsibility. And responsible and creative stewardship is an imperative in this digital milieu. And so, when used conscientiously, um, these technologies can help fulfill the four tasks that was outlined by Pope Francis when in a meeting of interreligious leaders in Kazakhstan last year in mid-July of 2022. And in his speech at the plenary, he outlined four important tasks for the post-pandemic world, which is to build communion, to foster peace, to advocate for fraternal acceptance, and to care for our common home. So if we leverage the digital media in order to accomplish these tasks, then uh, we can say that we're using God's gifts to the best of our ability. Thank you very much.
okay, thank you, Father Anthony. Yes, I will invite three of you to come together and then we will have a dialogue. So, in the term of development, I think there are some factors like politics, technology, or even pandemic. And of course, behind that, we can see also the factor of actors and internal factor of the media. So, and the prospect, of course, we can discuss uh, later, yeah. But we also, oh, I read already some question, but I need your short comment, Michelle and Dayton and Father Antonio. You can comment among each other related to the remark of if you have already listened to us. Michelle, please.
Yeah, one point I want to add. So the presentation of these three news agencies,
Mm-hmm.
um, I wanted to emphasize the effort to bring professional information and
Mm.
not just communication, not just religious communication on how to be a good Catholic, to be virtuous and pray, but really to bring um, professional information about what's going on the ground. Can we
Mm.
describe? First.
Mm.
Second, I wanted to highlight that there are indeed different religious organizations, different groups who may have different agenda and who might be competing against each other, even inside the
Mm.
Catholic Church. The Catholic Church is nothing as homogeneous, and you have right now, for instance, we all know that we have a very serious fight between a huge American Catholic media and the Vatican to control the ways in which information is spread about Catholicism in the world, and
Mhm.
that's it's linked to power, but also financial resources. So, through the case studies of Catholic news agencies, I also wanted to see to show this internal diversity. It's not just the secular media and the religious media, as if inside Catholicism everybody agree and it's an homogeneous voice. It's indeed way more complex. And when you start looking at details, you see that religious leaders may have very different agendas and priorities, and also different resources. If you are an American bishop, you may not have as much money as a bishop from southern Philippines.
Okay. Yes, Mr. Dayton, I think you can also add some input, or maybe you can ask my question about the role of women actor in the
Oh, yeah.
Muslim media.
Okay. Women actors also, I think like this. In Indonesia, organization like Muhammadiyah and NU have what we say women organization like in Nahdlatul Ulama say that Fatayat NU or
Mm,
Muslimat NU.
yes.
The chief of Muslimat NU is government of East Java, Khafifah Indar Parawangsa. That's
Mm-hmm.
the the one of actor women Muslim in Indonesia, and there are many government or uh, wali kota in Indonesia
Yeah.
Muslim like in Banten, also in Tangerang Selatan, South Tangerang, also past of a rector in Jakarta also women
Mm, yeah,
Muslim.
yeah.
Dr. Amani Lubis like that.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and they also using media to express their ideas or their program, right, Mr. Deden? Yes, we can go to Father Anthony if you have some addition uh, after you hear from Michelle and Mr. Deden. Please, Father Anthony.
Yes, I think what this evening reminds us is that religious media does not develop in a vacuum. Uh,
Mm,
whether it is a Catholic media or whether it is a Muslim media or whether it is a secular media, all these different media sort of uh, develop and impact each other, right? So uh, maybe we learn from each other, but we can also be impacted by each other as well. And so media, as any other field nowadays, has to really be interdisciplinary. And so we do need to work with one another and we need to sort of dialogue in order to communicate effectively. One of the problems that I've in my research, for example, is that is on environmental communication. We see that uh, scientists, uh, there's high consensus about climate change, but the
mm,
problem is that communication of this crisis is not effective, so that many people in the public in the US or in Europe, for example, a very high percentage of the people still believe that the climate change crisis is overblown or is not really something that scientists have agreed upon. And
mm-hmm.
so when there's a situation like this, we know that this is an interdisciplinary problem because then scientists need to learn how to communicate what they've found, what they've investigated, so that people can effectively understand what it is. But at the same time, the scientists also need to collaborate with religious because religions, um, uh, most of the people in the world adhere to some religious traditions. So communication of scientific understanding by way of religious communicators can be a very useful avenue. And
Mm-hmm.
so we're not sure if this has been done enough. So what I'm saying here, by using the example of the climate change crisis, is that communication and media has to really be more collaborative and
Mm,
cross-disciplinary, interdisciplinary, in order
okay.
to fight against fake news, in order to
Mm-hmm.
against disinformation and misinformation, and so on. And so I
Mm-hmm.
think uh, and the program that we're having tonight in discussing Catholic and Muslim um, media uh, reminds us of this need for greater collaboration between religious traditions as well as between religion and secular institutions.
Okay. Yes, we have to answer some question. It's already emerged from penyiar magang. She wrote, how do you view the role of media in spreading the message of Catholicism and Islam in Asia? What are the challenges and opportunities that media offer for evangelization and da'wah in this region? Yes, okay. Michelle, would you like to answer this?
Sure, or at least I can try. So I really, yeah, appreciate what my colleague said on the importance of how we address fake news, for instance, and bad, bad and good news, and news of
Mm-hmm.
tsunami. Um, so the role of media in that, for instance. Recently, like late May, the Vatican released a long document on how Catholics should engage with social media like Twitter or Facebook, and using the Bible, the Gospel, especially one story of to try to say, yes, you have to be mindful and respectful. You never know who you're going to encounter, and it might be a wounded person. So be cautious and be gentle, because yes, one of the problem of social media is like people polarize very quickly and become extreme.
Mm-hmm.
Yet I wouldn't, me as a scholar and as a theologian, I was critical against this document from the Vatican,
Mm-hmm.
saying, yes, of course, it's important to be good people. But if we look carefully at this story that Jesus said about how to be a good Samaritan, to take care of the people wounded on the road, you
Yeah, yeah.
should see that in the story, there is a inn, there is a place where the good guy takes the wounded people for a rest and for recovery. So there is an institution available. So it's not just a message about be good to each other. That's a very neoliberal discourse. It's also in the Bible we see about a call to create institutions that
Mm-hmm.
allow to fulfill this charitable impulse. So that was my critical response against the Vatican, to say you cannot just call us to be good individuals. It's also our job as an institution to build institutions that regulate the media or
Mm-hmm.
fight against fake news. It's not
Mm-hmm.
just on the shoulders of individuals. So the message of Catholicism is all of this. It's a call for institutional response, but also a call for individual response and search
Mm-hmm.
for good.
Okay. Yes, Mr. Deden, I think you can also answer this question, especially the challenge and opportunity Muslim media for dawah in
Okay.
Indonesia.
Of
Yeah,
course,
please.
thank you. Of course, in the internet era, in digital era, we have so many channel that
Mm-hmm.
provide discourse like dakwah or lectures through social media, YouTube or Instagram or TikTok. Right now, we see that the opportunity, but also we have some uh, media who give fake news, but I uh, I'm part of the Political Literacy Institute who gave the literacy to our student in many school or many pesantren, and we have to mention that remind uh, if when a wicked man come to you with news, examine it carefully so that you don't inflict a calamity on people without knowledge and then regret what you have done. Because our prophet said that it is sufficient for a person to be said to be a liar if they says everything he hears. Just stop the hoax, turn back fake news, and don't give the hate speech in our media. Like that, I think.
Okay, yes. Father Anthony, would you like to give some other answer?
Sure. Well, I think one of the contributions that Catholic and Muslim uh,
Mm-hmm.
media can give to the media landscape or to the communication landscape in this time is to lend the prophetic voice. And I think in both of our traditions, um, having this prophetic voice is very important because the prophetic voice, the prophet is someone who is closely connected to the community, is concerned with the well-being of the community, and is willing to speak a message that is rooted in the reality and the needs of the people. So, as uh, as religious institutions, we not only try to promote or just proclaim, but we have to really understand the life of the people, and then we speak from this reality. And when we speak about prophetic speech, there's two kinds of prophetic speech. There's a prophetic speech that's an energizing prophetic speech, and the energizing prophetic communication. It instills positive attitudes. It empowers people to transform. Um, it liberates people from the kind of thinking that there's no real change possible, you know. And then the other kind of prophetic communication is this criticizing message, and the criticizing message, challenges individuals and society to confront these injustices and these destructive structures and disconnection and consumerism and exploitation and oppressive systems. So the criticizing prophetic speech, challenges these negative tendencies in society. So I think what are the opportunities for Catholic and Muslim media is to lend this prophetic voice as religious institutions that are deeply involved in the lives of the people, that are deeply concerned with the well-being of society in the temporal space as well as in the future, that we continue to exercise this prophetic voice amidst this landscape of media, whether it's filled by fake news, it's filled by
Mm-hmm.
rage, is filled by negativity, that we sort of lend this clarity through
Mm-hmm.
this that we have. Thank you.
Okay. Father Anthony, would you like to continue about what do you think about the quality and the diversity of the content of religious media? This is
Well,
about answering the next question.
yeah. Well, I think as I said before,
Mm-hmm.
religious media faces the challenge because it is sort of sometimes overwhelmed by secular media. Sometimes we see that a very well produced religious program gets a few dozen views, gets a few hundred views, whereas a video of a cat doing something gets millions of views, right? So and you just can't but feel that there's injustice, uh, you know, in the world because of this. So, but then, that's the reality that we have to live with. We going viral is not the main goal of religious media. you know the main goal of religious media is to speak the truth, to speak with clarity, you know
Mm-hmm.
to promote the values of the kingdom of God, which is the values of justice, of harmony, of peace, of love, of forgiveness. These are the values of the kingdom of God, and we have to continue to focus on that message instead of focusing on whether what we do goes viral or not, because if we do that, then we might buy into some of the gimmicks of secular media. Then
Mhm.
ultimately, we don't accomplish what we actually set out to do in the first place.
Okay. Yeah, we still have two questions and one, I think, I give it to Mr. Deden from Franciscus Assisi Ifoni Dian. For Mr. Deden, how do you educate and empower your Muslim community to be critical and responsible media consumers and producers? Yes, please, Mr. Dede.
Thank you, Mr. Lucas. The first time is I say that we active in the Political Literacy Institute,
Mm, yes.
uh, and we give literacy, journalism, or dakwah in school, university, and uh, what like a digital literacy in Ministry of Communication and Information in Indonesia. So we have to give literasi anytime, anywhere. That the first time, and the second time is secondly is we also what we said call of them to speak the truth, don't share the fake news, don't share the hoax. Uh, uh, but currently, there are many online media because in Indonesia, in according with the law on the press number 40 of 1999, anyone can establish media. This is the laws in Indonesia. Everyone can establish the media, so everyone can do the news, and
Mm,
we did know how the news is truth or fake. But we have the one pairs to examine that the news, if there is the fake news. The one pairs give them evaluated and what we said that cannot to share the news again. But I think in Indonesia there are hundreds media Islam media in
mm-hmm,
Indonesia. Mostly there are NU online.
mm,
NU online in global is 300 ranking, 3,000, and Indonesia 100. 100. So I think Muslim in Indonesia see the or see the news in NU online or Bincang Syariah, Islami.co, Muslim.org, that the believe that the news or good news came from the good media, good Muslim
mm-hmm.
media, like that.
Okay. Yes, speaker, we have one question. I think it's going to you, Michelle, from Franciscus Assisi Fondian. What are some of the skill and values that you teach them to engage with media in a way that is consistent with their faith and respectful of others? Michelle,
Well,
please.
I think there are a lot of things under these questions, but I see the
Mm-hmm.
time running. So I'm sorry, I may not be able to address this question, but I would like to insist on one final example.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes we tend to oppose secular media and religious media, but recently we saw that indeed it's secular media who are saving the Catholic Church by bringing to light all the sexual scandals that were
Mm.
kept
Yeah.
very privately within the Catholic Church. And
Mm-hmm.
so like more than 10 years ago, we have the Boston Globe, who is a secular
Mm.
private media, who did the job to bring the truth to light. And
Mm.
that is helping Catholic organization to reform themselves and be more in line with the gospel. So, so it's not just an opposition again. And indeed, I think that the church can be even saved by secular private media.
Okay, thank you, the speakers, three speakers, Maisha Chamber, Deden Mauli, Darajat, and Father Antonio Leduc, SVD. We now to the end of our talk show. Thank you very much for your sharing. Yeah, this is very insightful for us and especially for the audience of Katolikana Media. I hope we can meet in other talk shows. Thank you very much and good night.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good night.
Thank you.
Good night.
Radio Katolikana, kami hadir untuk Anda, bawa kabar baik ke seluruh dunia. Radio Katolikana, wajah gereja Nusantara, kami bawa damai dan sukacita.
Halo, nggak bisa? Nggak bisa? Iya, nggak bisa ini, nggak bisa ngobrol-ngobrol. Momin.